Doom Nation, what's up? We are back once again. It is Skaggs and your captain as always, and we got another review for you, and we are excited about this one.
Yes, super excited.
What are we
Loki,
reviewing?
episode 1 of Loki called Glorious Purpose.
And it was glorious.
It was. It was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I know you were bursting at the seams to start talking about it as soon as you got here.
Yeah, I know. It was great. I feel movie quality, like
Without a doubt. Movie
Yeah.
quality, acting, movie quality.
definitely like Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier was like their own little side story. This was like where Loki left off.
Direct
Yeah,
continuation.
and it was
Yeah, I wanna-
tied in so well to Endgame.
Yeah, so we're gonna do this a little bit different. We put some effort into this
Yes.
now. We're gonna do a little bit more organized instead of us just screaming about how much we liked it.
Which I'm ready to do
Yes.
right now.
So this episode again was called "Glorious Purpose." I also want to, there's going to be spoilers here for the show. If you didn't watch it yet, you've been warned.
Yep.
Another thing I want to do with these Loki reviews going forward is I don't want to use any comic book source material as a spoiler for any of this. Let's just go based off of what we know from the MCU.
Oh, I already got stuff from the
No,
comic book
don't use that
too.
because now you're spoiling things for
Right.
people that you know what I mean. Like
That don't. Well, they were what I was gonna say referenced it. So
I don't want to do that, but anyway, let's start with a recap, right? So the last time we saw Loki was in Avengers Endgame, and he was killed by Thanos, right? So the Avengers go back in time. If you didn't, spoiler warning, I wouldn't know why you wouldn't have watched Infinity War by now. And they travel back in time to 2012 to get the Space Stone, which is the Tesseract. And like a scuffle happens, and the Space Stone falls out of this briefcase. Loki, back in 2012, he picks it up and he vanishes.
Yep.
So the show picks up directly from there, and literally directly from there, we re-see that entire
That whole scene.
sequence. And then Loki is teleported to Mongolia, and the story begins.
Yep. I enjoyed the beginning because they took it directly from the movie.
Right.
They didn't need to add anything new. This is the Marvel verse. They gave, you know what I mean? Like throwing in the movie is, to me something great. I think they should have utilized that more in the other two shows. Just even we don't need something new. It's great the way it is. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
to pepper in scenes from the movie.
Yeah, this was directly tied
Yeah.
to the movie. However, like the story plot of this is directly tied to the movie, and we knew
Yes.
that when we were watching Avengers. So, like I said, Loki's then he's teleported to Mongolia, and this TVA agents
Instantly in trouble.
right
Yep.
immediately show up, and they arrest him for they arrest him to stand trial for his time variance.
Which is fun for me because I've always known a lot about like the comics and the history and stuff. Never came across the TVA, so this was
So
all
you're
new.
just like Loki, right?
Yeah.
One thing I liked about the TVA, let's go a little bit into the TVA now, where Loki ends up going to. It had a very Men in Black feel to it. I don't know if you've ever seen the Men in Black movies,
but-
but it had that vibe of The Office, and everybody has like that very
Yeah.
dull attitude, and
liked-
and it's like a bureaucracy, paper pushers.
Yes, I liked that it was this like futuristic realm, but they had like 70s technology. You know what I mean? Like there was like this old school feel to
Right.
them all, which was cool.
One thing I wanted to point out, so as we know, Loki goes to his trial hearing or whatever, and one of my first points I want to make is Marvel's incredible attention to detail when it comes to like the consistency of all these stories, right? So when Loki's standing trial, he says that the criminals of the time variant should be the Avengers.
What a great point that was.
Because he knows that they time traveled because he smelled the cologne of two Tony Starks in that opening scene that we saw in the beginning of the episode, right? So one would think Loki has a great point. You know, it wasn't him. He was an innocent bystander to all this. It was the Avengers who traveled time and whatnot. However, Marvel is so good at making sure there's no plot holes, right? The Avengers essentially inadvertently made sure that they didn't mess with the timelines when Captain America went and returned the stones to the exact moments in time where they took them. So no, it wasn't their fault
Well,
at all.
right.
It's they did what they had to do to set the timelines correct without even knowing there was a TVA
Yep.
or anything of the sort. It was Loki picking it up and disappearing, which caused this new branch.
From the sacred
And
timeline.
it's just, in my opinion, that's great writing and the consistency to make sure that there's no plot holes. Because when we get into time travel, there can be.
Yeah. I liked that she was like, no, that well, the judge was like, no, the Avengers stayed within
What they
their
did was
path.
supposed to happen.
Yeah. So when Doctor Strange said there's only he checked what the 14 million different outcomes or whatever, and he goes, "There's only one where we win." That was the one path that they were always going to take. This is how it was always supposed to play out. Time travel was supposed to happen
Right.
in this sacred timeline for them to defeat Thanos, which
Exactly.
is kind of a cheap shot, but it's great writing, like you said.
Right.
It
They wrote
solved
it
the whole
plot hole
problem.
proof.
Yes,
Right.
which is fantastic that this is what they were supposed to do. And it kind of brings upon like where we end up learning how powerful the TVA actually is. Because like I could see your next point there
Yeah.
is like no
I'm
magic
gonna
and stuff
pick that
like
apart, but
where even Loki, who is a god who can do a multitude of different things throughout his power. He's not just, mischievous. He can almost teleport, get away, and always escape and all this
he has a
stuff.
lot of powers. Loki.
Right, yes. He's an extremely powerful being. And even him as a god, the TVA had like, oh no, this is you. Yeah, all those times you escaped, all those times you think you won, that's what you were supposed to do. Like that was all within your timeline. You didn't change anything. This is how it was supposed to go.
That's what they want you to believe, right? But I'm gonna pick that apart.
Yeah.
Because let's see. There's apparently my notes here. There's no magic within the TVA, right? So that reminded me of WandaVision. Do you remember how Wanda was able to nullify other people's magic by casting runes on the room
Yeah.
that she was standing in? So you could essentially be standing in a room that Wanda Maximoff is standing in, and you could think, "Holy shit, Wanda Maximoff is the most powerful being in the MCU. She could control my
Right.
power." So I don't really view the fact that there's no magic, you can't use any of your powers within the TVA as a big deal. That doesn't make them ultimate beings of the universe, at least the TVA.
Right.
Because we've seen that could be done before by other characters, technically.
I didn't think of that, but I do feel as a counteroffer, the TVA is a new entity and realm that is way different because I mean, we're going to get to it, but the draw full of infinity
Oh, I'm
stones,
going to get to that. Yep.
an infinity stone is useless there. You know what I mean? Like, so some of these in our world outside of the TVA, the Infinity Stone would be one of the most powerful things you could wield. Look what Thanos did with it. And over there, it's nothing. So there certainly is some type of, external force that changes and gives the TVA some type
And
of
at the same
power.
time, as soon as the TVA agents leave the TVA, they are killed immediately by another powerful being.
Yeah.
Their powers no longer hold sway once
True.
they leave the TVA, as we see in the two time periods, which was interesting that we even got something like that. There's two back in time periods in 1549 in France. There was a Nexus event where it seems like, according to what the characters are saying, Agent Mobius, that Loki was there and he was the guy who kills the
Yeah, he was
TVA
leading a trap.
agents. As that little girl points to
The demon.
the demon, right? That kind of looks like Loki with the
Yeah,
skulls.
his helmet.
And then at the end of the episode, Salina, Oklahoma, 1858. Again, the agents are killed easily. So I don't buy the fact that they're these all powerful, can control everything. Because as soon as they leave their little
Right.
protected, realm,
They're easily
they
killed.
could be burned.
Yeah,
You know,
true. I do like their weapons and their technology, though. Let's talk a little bit about. So when they first showed up, I thought, okay, these are corny, just soldiers in gear. I didn't know what it was, but that time stick where it hits you and it slows you down, and then the reverse collar that they have. Some of the technology they have is really cool.
Yeah.
But also, you might be onto something with they might not be all powerful because when they have Loki going through the process, the booking process, let's say, remember they take the picture of him and they're like, "What's this of?" And he's like, "The temporal
temporal
orb."
aura.
I think they have some form of technology where they knew how powerful Loki actually is. You know what I'm saying? Like, so let's put a scale 1 through 10. Like, if Loki's like an 8 or a 9, that picture, that temporal lobe picture, shows how powerful they are. And then like when the robot was picking at his uniform, and he's like, "This is Asgardian leather." They're like, "Oh, I know what to do now," and they took it right
Right. They
off.
lasered it off.
They have like technology, like they know how to gauge like how powerful other
So
things are.
you're making a good point here. I think their strength is technology, not magic, not
Right.
some sort of God given power. If you look at their whole city, I think Loki says like, "Is this magic or something?" And he's like, "No, it's not. It seems like it's all just technology." One of my other points here, going back to the two events that we see, which are major points in the episode. We got the
Right.
one in 1549 and one in 1858, and we're led to believe that it's Loki that is causing these events and killing the TVA agents, right? This is going to be the main storyline of the season, as Agent Mobius, who's Owen Wilson, right? And
Yes.
first of all, what happened to his nose? Is that him, or is that the
Yeah,
way he's supposed to
he's
look?
always had an
Yeah, has it
effed
just
up
gotten
nose.
worse?
Maybe. I actually, that was one of my notes. Like, I don't remember the last time I saw Owen Wilson do anything. It's great to see him back. I like him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because he is comedic.
Yeah,
And the best part is he's still playing the same guy he's always
yeah,
played, which is, I
which is
mean,
fine for this
yeah,
character. Yeah,
yeah.
he plays it
He's
well.
no huge. I mean, we don't know how important he is yet, but I kind of missed Owen Wilson,
Right, right.
and his nose. Yeah, his
Me too.
nose just looks like it's getting
It's
worse.
weird. So it seems like the main storyline is going to be they're going to try and work together with Loki in order to stop Loki, who is killing the TVA
Yeah,
agents. Right. My theory, it's total speculation, or I'm going to take a guess of maybe what we're seeing is a causal time loop. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a causal
I'll
time
let you
loop. You've
explain.
seen it many times. So a causal time loop is when a sequence of events is among the causes of another event, which in turn among the causes of the first mentioned event. So what that means is we don't know yet, right? But from what we see, somebody is killing the TVA agents, and
Right.
they think it's Loki. And at the end, there's a hooded figure, kind of looks like Loki, kills the TVA agents. Are we seeing the story of how Loki got to the point where he is killing the TVA agents? But we're seeing it before that, and it's
Right.
something will happen later, which
It's kind of like
it's
so.
like it reminds me of Hodor. Remember how Hodor
Yes.
becomes Hodor because in the future they tell him to hold the door,
Yes.
and this like link through the warging happens and causes him to go crazy
Yeah.
and say hold the door forever.
It's kind of like if we were to say, so like they joke about this in the Big Bang Theory. They're like, okay, if we create time machines in the future, let's promise to revisit the past 5 minutes after this conversation or 5 seconds after this conversation, so they'll know that they created, a time machine in the future, and then they sit there and go, okay, no, we
Right? No,
didn't
we
do it.
didn't.
But this time, with the breaking of the sacred universe, whatever
The
it was,
sacred timeline.
sacred timeline, we could see like he
Yeah,
did figure it out.
right. I was also thinking another theory is similar to. I was taking this kind of from like the Flash and the Reverse Flash, how he kind of does something. I'm not sure exactly what happens, but I'm pretty sure like in some point the Reverse Flash does something to the timeline, and he's chased constantly by like
Oh, those time
demons
ghosts,
of
yeah,
time ghosts or something. And the only way he could stay alive is by constantly outrunning them and killing them, and he can never rest. So we could be seeing how the only way maybe Loki is able to now remain in this form, which he's not supposed to exist in, he's going to always have to be on the run,
right.
away from the TVA. And you're seeing maybe future seasons, him, killing them on the run of his like ultimate quest to somehow get away from them and just be allowed to exist.
Right. So I have two theories. One, we don't know who this hooded figure is.
It's true, right? They left it
So
ambiguous, yeah.
I don't think it is my theory as of right now after just episode 1. I don't think it's Loki. I think it's someone framing Loki, right? I don't know where it would go yet. I don't know who it could be. Me personally, obviously we know Loki's going to start helping Owen Wilson, Morbius, and try
Agent
and solve
Mobius, yeah.
these murders and stuff. I think it's going to start being. I think it's going to start getting apparent that it might be someone different. But you also have to think now. We went back to 2012, and that's where Loki broke the timeline. This has to lead up to before Thor Ragnarok. You get what I'm saying? Because Thor 3 happened before, obviously, Infinity War and stuff, and he was a character in that movie.
or
When
maybe or maybe not there, but maybe right back to the moment where he left in 2012.
Well, that might be the end result, but everything that's happening right now would be before Thor Ragnarok, and that could end up being this could end up being how he gets to that planet. Remember how it was kind of very unclear how Loki showed up at that planet where the Hulk was Planet Hulk, basically. That's what they call it in
I
the
don't
comic
remember
book.
that. I don't remember
I
that
know
much
I
detail.
really would need to rewatch Thor Ragnarok to put this together, but I think in the timeline this has to be
This already
before.
happened, kind of,
No, it hasn't happened yet.
but it right. It's a
So it's
causal time loop,
yes.
right? Yes.
So he gets there, and it's very,
He don't. He only gets there by going through this, which he doesn't even know happened yet.
yes, you know what I mean, because he eventually watches his future and he sees what goes on with it. So I think like this is going to end up being closer towards Thor Ragnarok than actually Endgame and Infinity War.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe like it puts him back on the timeline where he should
Right.
be. One of the other things about this episode, I think they did a fantastic job of diving into Loki's psyche.
Oh, dude, the
Right?
conversation
Yeah.
when they finally. So first off, kudos to how powerful Loki is that he was still able to f everyone over in
Even in the TVA,
yeah,
right, where they
in
have
the
complete
TVA,
dominion.
where he's still pickpocketing people, he's still creating diversions, he's still, and he figured it out, and he went back. That conversation between the
Yeah.
two of them was for people who don't read the comic, for the people who don't. I mean, by now, for the people who've watched the movies, you get who Loki
But
is.
did you really? I thought maybe you did, right? But yes, maybe you did. But this gave you a very deep dive into his psyche, right?
This is who Loki is from the comic books, but you also got to take into effect he always has an angle. He might have spoken
Sure.
some truth, but there's still an angle to it.
Yeah, I get that. But I felt like, they asked him, why does he do what he does? And he says, he's born to fulfill his glorious purpose. That's the name of the episode. And, his glorious purpose is to be king of all the realms and of space. Agent Mobius tells him that he is not born to be king, but to cause pain and suffering, and that he's born basically so that others can achieve the best version of themselves. The Avengers, Thor. He's the anti-hero.
Yeah.
He's the antichrist for them. He brings the best out of them, I guess you could say. And one of the points I wanted to make that Loki's motivations seem to me very similar to Darth Vader's motivations almost, or his rationale, or Darth Vader, because he
Taking over
Loki's
by anger.
not only, but his Loki's motivation of being like the king of the realms and spaces for like security and he's complete control. Like people are better off being under complete control. He could give them everything.
The illusion of
The
freedom.
illusion of freedom, right? It just reminded me of Darth Vader almost.
Right.
This like, in order to like everybody to be safe in the galaxy, we need to rule with an iron fist and tell you what to do because it's safer for everybody.
All the villains kind of have the same feeling. The Loki with the illusion of freedom and the need to rule everyone. They'd be better off just listening to him. Ultron, it'd be better off if we just erased all you. Thanos, it'd be better off if only half of you were gone. You know what I mean? Like, it's their own delusion of, their own glorious purpose to rule and how they're going to rule or what the outcome should be to make things perfect.
And then, speaking of glorious purpose again, after watching the file film of his entire life and him seeing himself at the end
Die as a
being
hero.
killed by Thanos, he laughs at his earlier statement, glorious purpose. That's what he's laughing at, right?
That was his
I thought
purpose.
that's huge. I think that's huge because he's laughing at how, like, his hubris from earlier about how he's, he got humbled, right? I have such a glorious purpose. And then when you see what really happens to him, he laughs. He's like, glorious purpose. Like, I ended up being nothing, really.
Yeah, he died a hero. He died fighting with the people he hated. Yeah.
But even he thinks like that was no glory. Like there was no major glorious purpose to my existence.
It was all for nothing. So now, question: we don't know where the timeline's going to go. He broke the timeline. the Avengers were doing the right thing in breaking the timeline to defeat Thanos. So with that all on the table, that looks like Loki is dead. Thanos killed Loki for good. He's one of the people who died, and not to be coming back in future.
That's what we think, right? But you have to.
I mean, with this show, obviously, there's some type of future, but theoretically, he's one of the people who died
Who
because this
knows?
is 2012 Loki. He has
This-
no idea who.
yeah,
Well, actually, he does know who Thanos is by this point, but
yeah, he does, right? Because
yeah,
Thanos is the one who sent him.
yeah. So, but yeah, because he controlled the whole alien army at the end of the first Avengers. So he doesn't. He's only 2012 Loki is what we're seeing. We don't have the present day. The present day Loki died in that battle.
Right. But we'll see. We have this phase 4 seems to be this is phase 4, right?
Yeah, going
leaning
into phase
heavily into time travel, multiverse,
Yep.
etc. So we'll see. We'll see. This is only episode 1. This is only a
Yep.
review for episode 1. We got way more to go. We're gonna review every episode. I got one more point that was like not really that important, but was pretty cool, and I looked it up to figure out what exactly it
Yeah.
was. And if anybody remembers from the episode, there was a scene. It was like a flashback almost of Loki, and he hijacks a plane, gets a bunch of money, jumps off the plane, and gets beamed up back to Asgard, right?
yeah.
And Agent Mobius goes to him, "You were DB Cooper, right?" So I'm like, okay, I didn't know what that meant.
Never
right?
heard of this.
Never
Yeah.
heard of this. Didn't know what it meant. Nothing, right? So today, when I'm getting prepared for this review, I look up what is DB Cooper.
This is a true story.
So this is a true story in real life. For those that are unfamiliar with DB Cooper, a name given to him by the media. He was an unidentified man who hijacked a Boeing 727 aircraft in 1971. Then he collected a substantial ransom and N4 parachutes, and then he jumped out of a plane. To this day, Cooper's identity and fate remain completely unknown, nor is it certain if he successfully deployed one of the parachutes he had received. So that is a true story that we have no idea who the guy
Completely
was.
unsolved.
No idea. It's completely unsolved. And, the writers of this episode did a fantastic job into just rationalizing a real world
Yes.
unsolved mystery with a Marvel, god of mischief. And it was a mischievous,
Yes.
I
love it.
robbery or whatever. So I thought that was great. Bang up job on the writing, on that little tidbit, on everything. What do you want to give the first episode?
You know what? I don't know if I want to rate these yet because I mean that was.
Oh yeah, I'm rating them, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm rating them episode by episode, and then at
I-
the end, one overall.
I enjoyed it. So I don't have much to go on. That's why I was thinking of just rating the whole overall
We're
season.
reviewing one episode, right?
Right.
So in terms of this one episode, what would you give this one episode?
I want to give it like an 8 or 9. I'll
Mm-hmm.
give it pretty high. You can't give anything a perfect 10.
Oh,
But
I'm giving this a 10.
yeah.
In terms of opening episodes for a new show, this was perfect. It gave you storyline, it gave you depth, it gave you mystery, it was dark, but it was funny, right? It gave you everything. I couldn't have written a more, if I was, a magic writer, I couldn't have written a more perfect
Right.
episode 1 of a series. That's the way I'm looking
Yeah,
at this.
I only see it going up from here. So I mean, I still gave it a high rating. There is some backlash that I kind of agree with when all those Infinity Stones were in there. All those Vision didn't need to die. Black Widow didn't need to die. All that, you know what I mean? If there was other Infinity Stones out there,
But they're in the TVA. They're like out of circulation, I guess you could say.
yeah, I know, but they're
Maybe
in
they were-
existence. You know,
They
what
could
I'm
have
saying?
been from the other millions of possibilities Doctor Strange was talking about. I have some other interesting things I noticed that I'll point out a couple because we're talking about the Infinity Stones in the drawer. I paused and looked in the drawer
Oh, there's definitely Easter eggs
because
in there.
there's always other Easter eggs and things. There's a French Medal of Honor, right? And there's baseball cards in there of a Pittsburgh Pirates player, and it says from the location APB-EGO. I don't know what that means. I tried looking it up. I got
Ego.
nothing.
He, Peter Quill's father, the living planet.
So maybe he's.
Well, he's a living planet. He's a
He just
super
says location.
celestial
It
being.
seems like a designation. Location APB-EGO. That's where the baseball cards are from. Maybe. The elevator buttons in the TVA elevator. That was interesting. I wonder what the other floors are.
Yeah,
And they all have like
Well, there is a nightmare department, so the TVA could be very complex for all
Yeah.
we know.
The Miss Minutes cartoon. It reminded me of the DNA cartoon from Jurassic Park.
Yes.
So I
It
think they
had-
took some inspiration for that.
It had this old school feel
Yes.
to it. All of the TVA had this old school feel to it that I really liked.
Yeah. Those little bottle things that the TVA
Oh,
agents
the
put
bombs.
down. What are those things? So, I don't know. It was just
It
interesting.
resets the
Yeah,
timeline.
weird. And the ending character picked them up.
Right. When when he went to Mongolia and they captured him right away and they said, "All right, let's reset the timeline." I guess whatever this device does, those people who were affected, who saw him, their timeline was changed.
Which leads me back to Men in Black. It's like a flashy
Yeah,
thingy.
it's
You
basically like
erase
that but the timeline in that
timeline,
area.
maybe, or maybe the people there
Yes.
just resets them, kind of.
Yep.
My last interesting thing I noticed in the very last scene when the hooded character burns all the TVA agents to death, the hooded character himself was impervious to fire.
Didn't notice that.
Yes.
Didn't even think of
So I
that.
don't know. Is Loki impervious to fire? I don't know.
I mean, he's a god, so fire wouldn't kill him. But yeah, that's interesting. That's also, it leads me. That's why I can't. Even though if they're telling me it's Loki in episode 1, it kind of means to me it's definitely not Loki.
Yeah, it's too straightforward. Or it could be, I don't know.
You know what I
We'll see.
mean?
It's a red herring maybe, but we don't
Yeah.
know. We got 5 more episodes to go. Unfortunately,
Yes, I can't
season
believe that.
1 is only 6 episodes. Well, let me start here by saying we've been critical of when these shows are too short and like storylines and characters specifically cannot be fleshed out in a short amount of episodes. So we'll take a look at that, especially when the season's over, and come back and say, were they able to flesh out all the characters or not? That's been my main criticism of these short
Yeah, we'll
seasons.
find out.
So I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing that we really didn't talk about were the creators of the sacred timeline.
I don't know nothing yet. Like, do you know?
They remind me of the Watchers, but they're not the Watchers. It's interesting because originally there was this war between the multi universes, which I mean, for me, who knows the comic books, leads to so many things. But forget the. I mean,
It's not. I don't want to get into that then
we
because
already
it
got
could happen, and you kind of have like knowledge that people don't have.
yeah,
Technically.
and so Doctor Strange is going to be a super important movie.
I'm sure.
It really is. It's gonna. I think that's gonna be the movie that changes everything.
Yeah, in the episode they say that the timekeepers they dictate the proper flow of time, whatever that means.
And he is a timekeeper.
Who?
Doctor Strange.
Okay.
Yeah, well, he has the time stone.
True. True.
Yeah.
Well,
But
we'll
the
see.
other thing that
yeah.
the other thing I had a problem with, how did he break the timeline with the Tesseract? That's not. He could break space with the Space Stone, not time and timelines.
Well, it's not that I don't think it's that he broke the timeline with the Tesseract. It's that he was not supposed to escape in that moment.
Oh, that moment
for
okay.
the in the correct timeline. He that wasn't supposed to happen.
Right. Okay, I get that.
So, yeah.
All right, cool.
We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna review every episode
Yes.
going forward. So I'm gonna try and turn them around immediately after the show comes out on Wednesdays. This way, we could be the first review that you guys come to.
Exactly.
So that's it.
As always, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. The subscribe button is like right here. Just click it. Thank you guys for sitting through another review. Hope you guys enjoy them. Please leave comments. Let us know what you guys think. It's obviously important to hear back from you. And you could always find us on Instagram at 2domen_podcast. We have our link tree there that has all of our social media accounts on it. And our YouTube page where you're listening to us right now at 2domen.
Yeah.
So Doom Nation, thank you guys. It's been another review. Have a good day.
If you see anything interesting about Loki, leave it in the comments. Whatever.
That's
Later.
interesting. Yeah, share your
Yes.
Easter eggs with us. We want to hear them.
Take it easy.